Hey there, Prairie Plant Girl here. I'm going to be out picking cherries off of my cherry tree today. Now it's taken me years to figure out what the variety of this was. It was labeled as a Manchurian cherry. Well, the original parent plant was. This is a cutting grown from the original plant. But a Manchurian cherry is like a choke cherry type cherry, and this definitely is not that. There's thunder in the sky. We'll see. We might not get this job quite done. But anyways, this is a Evans cherry, which apparently was discovered up in northern Saskatchewan, I believe it was, and then a researcher took the opportunity to salvage the original trees and develop them further and make them into something that could be sold and distributed. And no one quite knows where the original parentage came from this tree. It was just something that was found in a lady's yard. And they're a hardy cherry. It's a sour cherry. They produce very well, and they have nice, large cherries on them. Like, that's a good sized cherry. They're beautiful for baking with. So I have two of these trees. I have this one and then the parent plant of this one at the back of the yard. And you pick them when they're still kind of a reddish orange, but darker. And they'll pull pretty easily from the tree. And so I thought I'd bring you along to pick the cherries off of here. And then I will show you my favorite cherry pie, sour cherry pie recipe, and what I do to freeze the filling to make it really easy to pop a pie together in no time if you need a pie quickly. Before we get picking these, let's have a really quick look over at the Romeo cherry that I have growing. It's a development from the University of Saskatchewan. I have the Romeo, the Juliet, and the Cupid. The Romeo is the oldest of the three. These are actually technically bush cherries, so let's go have a look at them. So you can see I have Romeo all covered up here. And these, technically, I have them growing as trees. They're trimmed to tree form, but they're technically a shrub, and it's said they'll produce better as a shrub. And the fruit on these trees matures a little bit later than the ones on the Evans. So even though these are quite a bit darker and larger, let me grab an Evans. So here's the two side by side. So here's the Evans and here's the Romeo. And you can see the Romeo is quite dark already, and it's still not fully mature. You can eat it at this point. It'll give you a good pucker. It will get much sweeter to almost fresh eating sweetness. It's still sour, but you can easily eat them fresh. Whereas this, you can eat it fresh, but it's going to really, really give you a pucker eating these. So, and you can just see the size difference. Hopefully you can see that there. You can see the Romeo past the Evans. And so there's quite a few on my Romeo. I have it netted. I've had people ask me, will this hurt the tree? No, it doesn't hurt the tree. The Romeo does have a little bit of a thinner limb, and it already has kind of a curving structure, but I could also put it on the Juliet, which is right here. I would have to get a ladder out and work a little harder, but I could net this one as well, and it wouldn't hurt it. Might weigh it down a bit, but the fruit, when they're full of fruit, is heavy and will weigh them a little bit as well. Now, my Juliet didn't produce a lot. I think it's probably about 2 years younger than the Romeo, even though it's taller. It just has a slightly different structure and shape. And it's just had a few fruit on it, and the birds ate them when they were quite young already. I think it was just early enough in the season they were looking for delicious berries. And the Cupid that I have has not really produced much of anything yet. So here's the Cupid, and rain is starting to fall. So I think we'll put this project on pause, and I'll come out in a little bit. Okay, so we're back over here at the Evans cherry. Just had a very short little rain shower, and clouds and systems all around us here, and apparently now we're under a severe thunderstorm watch. So I'm gonna just try and get this job done so that I can get these cherries off of here. So let's get these cherries picked. There you can see I just grabbed without looking. You can see how much lighter that one is, and even this one. See the color difference there? And so these pulled the stem. So you need to be more careful than I was just doing there. This tree here isn't quite as far along as the one at the back of the yard. So I'll be leaving quite a few on it. You can see it's just loaded up here. And I'd like to get as many as I can before the birds do. There is also a Nanking cherry that you might hear of in Saskatchewan or the prairies. And it's also a sour cherry. It's a definite shrub form. I don't think you can really grow it too well as a tree. It doesn't get very tall at all. And my understanding is that the cherries are smaller and the leaves are much more serrated. I had a couple in my yard years ago, but I haven't grown them in years. And they did not grow well here for me, even though they're supposed to grow well here. Gotta watch this lily. I don't want the pollen on me. You might notice a white film on my leaves here. This tree had what appeared to be, no, I can't remember, is it powdery? Yeah, it's powdery mildew later in the summer. It seemed to be having issues with that. And these trees are quite susceptible to fungal type diseases and don't live very long. So I gave it a Bordeaux spray several weeks ago now, and it seems to have helped. These are very juicy. I don't know if you can see the moisture dripping off of them, but you always have to kind of be prepared to get a little sticky and wet, I find, picking off these big cherry trees. Okay, so that's what I got off of this tree here. There's still probably at least that much left on here, but like I said, this tree is just at a little bit different point in its development as far as the cherries go than the one at the back. I think the one at the back has a lot more on it, but I already saw a few empty pits hanging there that probably have been gotten by the birds. But these trees will also, I find this variety will drop its fruit when it's ripe. So I like to get out and get it. Even if it's a little bit underripe, I'd rather get it than have it all over the ground or have the birds eat it, because I'm just going to be baking with these anyways. The romance series that the University of Saskatchewan put out, so the Romeo, the Juliet, the Crimson, what is it called? Crimson Passion or something like that. Cupid, there's one more. They are not supposed to drop their fruit, and I haven't found that they do. But this Evans, I think it's Evans anyways, type does seem to drop its fruit. Let's go see what's on the other tree. So here, I think you can probably see they're hanging quite a bit thicker on this tree, but these fruit might be slightly smaller. It gets absolutely zero irrigation here. And they're just slipping from the tree really well so far, everyone I've pulled. Like I said, this one just seemed to be a little bit further ahead than the other one was. So like I said, this variety seems to be pretty prone to disease. And so I had one that was one of the original trees in my yard, and it succumbed to fungal disease, but luckily I was able to get this cutting going off of it. And I have videos on how to do that. A lot of people really question that it's possible, but it is. And I actually took a cutting off of this one to create that tree I was just picking on. So these are registered varieties. Technically, you shouldn't be taking cuttings, but as long as you're not selling them and you're just using them for your own use, I feel like that's not the biggest thing in the world. Do the breeders agree? Probably not. So here, probably can see where the birds and insects have been getting in. There's about half a dozen right there that have been cleaned right off. And they're not the only ones I've seen on this tree. So I definitely have to share. And the aphids as well. But I do like having the nature in the yard and the birds and that, so I guess I have to share with them. I just wish they wouldn't take the nicest looking ones. So I'm going to get on a ladder and try and get the rest of these off of here, and I'll show you what I have in the end. When they get dark, birds eat them on me. Let's see that. Look how full that is. So you can see how very full the top of this tree is. And these trees grow quite tall. Like I'm on I think a 5-foot ladder. I'm up at the top and I still can't reach all the fruit on it. But so I topped the other tree that I was on. So it didn't look really pretty for a while, but I'll be able to reach the fruit on it as it grows out wider and fills out that way. But they're a very pretty tree. They have beautiful bark. But they do seem to be a short-lived tree, which a lot of fast, tall-growing trees are short-lived. So if you give the slightest pressure and they come off, they're ready. If you have to give them a real yank, they're not ready. And that's what I have found to be my guide. I don't know if you can hear the thunder, but that storm is getting closer for sure, so. Take a few more here and then I think I need to go in and not get caught out in the storm. Especially hanging out in a tree in a storm. Okay, I've got quite a few cherries here. There's so many more on that tree. I just want to keep going, but that storm is getting really close. It's getting very dark, and I'm actually starting to see lightning now. So I do think it's time to take my cherries and go inside before I'm caught in the top of a tree when a lightning strikes. So we'll catch back up with you in the kitchen when I'm making some cherry pie filling. Yeah, just got my ladder put away, and the rain is starting to fall again. It's dark in those skies. I think there's a real storm rolling through now. I think that first little rain was just the warning signal that I shouldn't be doing this project. Yeah, good thing I came off the ladder because it is pouring out here now, and it's like almost nighttime darkness in the middle of the day. Yeah, I think it was time to come in. You see my rain barrel over there? Getting a bit of water. That's good, they were empty. If you can tell, that one is too behind the tree. I wanted to come make sure this one was open, and yeah, it is. Look at the neighbors. Oh my goodness. Look at the street. Yeah, it's wet out here. Rain's pretty much done, but a little tiny bit of hail just to mix in with that weather. Not much, not enough to really, shouldn't have done really any damage. Hopefully we don't get any more. But rain's almost done out here now, I think. We'll see if we get another system roll through. What a day for cherry picking. I just washed the cherries, and I'm going to be pitting them, and then I'll also go through and any that are damaged from birds or insects or anything. I'll just go in the compost along with any stems or leaves or pits or anything. I need 6 cups of the cherries pitted for this recipe. Right now I'm right about 4 cups, and I've just been working with this cherry pitter. This is a new one for me this year. It's been working pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's certainly better than using this little single. So when you use the single, you have to kind of line up the little like place where you took the stem off, the stem end. I find you need to line that up with the hole in there. And then hold it, push down, and still kind of moves around on you. And doesn't always get the pit out. And then you're just left with the pit in there anyways. If you have a pit stuck in, a little chopstick will pop it out quite easily. I have been told that you can just use a chopstick, but I have not found that to be super efficient most of the time. I find having that little hole by the cherry pitter makes it a little nicer. Of course, that one worked perfectly. But so if you don't have a cherry pitter, you could use like a chopstick or a skewer or something. Just use a small little cherry pitter, or I think something like this, even though it's not perfect, it's a little bit faster, and most of the time, if it doesn't have the pit pop right out, it's just kind of hanging off the bottom, it seems like. So and it does 6 at once. See there, two pits came out. Let's see, there's one hanging right there, 3. And so I can feel there's none there. I can see there's none in that one. I just took it off of that one. So this one has one. And I just kind of squeeze and wiggle it, and the pit's going to fall out. I can feel that one falls out. And this one's a little more finicky, but falls out. So, and I feel like this, I don't know if it's because of how the blades, they have like a cross kind of mark instead of just a circle. But it seems like if the pits don't come out, I can kind of jiggle it and they come out a lot easier. That's what I'm finding works better for me. Some kind of looks like a bird might have got to it. And this one, it doesn't seem to matter if I put them a certain direction or not, it works the same. So 3 obvious right there. There's another one. So I'm just looking for one more. So nope. It's in this one. So I can feel it in there. So this one doesn't want to just squeeze out. Well, it probably would have. There, just popped out. 2, 4, yeah. So you could just go through and do a whole bunch. I'm counting every time because I think you don't ever want to like get into a cherry pie and have someone bite down on a stone or pit from the fruit that you put in there. So I like to make sure that all the pits have come out. So that's definitely a good heavy 4 cups I have there. So I'm just gonna try and remember to start filling up my 2 cup here. Two, 4, 6, so they all came out that time. I thought they did. 2, 4, 6. I must have missed one picking up last time because there's one in, I can see it. 2, 4, 5, 6. So it does work pretty decent most of the time. I think that must be that Romeo cherry that I picked to show the comparison. Look at the difference in it. You can just tell it's a different type of cherry. Part of me wants to just eat this, but I'm going to put it in the pie. I wonder if there's a difference in the size of the pit. I mean, the rest of those cherries were quite a bit smaller. So there, this one's the Romeo. So it is maybe 1/4 to 1/3 bigger, but this pie filling is super easy to put together. And as soon as I get these cherries done, I'll show you. And that rainstorm that came through was a doozy. Even got a tiny bit of hail. Just really tiny hail, so it didn't do any damage. And we had, I think it was 3/4 of an inch, about just around 20 millimeters of rain. Fell in about half an hour. So it was a good thing I decided to go in when I did, because I barely got things inside and put away, and the rain started and it just turned into just an incredibly strong rainstorm. The downspouts were overflowing. The rain barrels should all be pretty close to full now, which is good because they were all empty. So that'll give me a good amount of rainwater again in my rain barrels to use for August or until the next rainfall. All almost at two more cups, so that'll give us our 6 cups. A couple more handfuls, which means I picked almost the perfect amount. I don't know if you can see that. And there's still lots on the tree, so this recipe makes enough for the filling for 2 9-inch pies. I don't know if I'll still be able to get a link. It's out of a pretty old magazine, but it's really simple. So when I come to make it, I'll give you a look at the recipe page that I'm using, so you can pause it if you need to and write it down, but it's super, super simple. And I've been using this recipe for years. It's the cherry pie recipe I use, and I love it. If you have another suggestion, something else that you like to make with sour cherries, put it down in the comments. Maybe I'll give it a try, and maybe some of my other viewers would like to try it as well. I'm gonna do one more pile of these, and then they'll be good. Now this recipe that I'm going to show you can be done with fresh or frozen cherries, sour cherries. So if you have frozen sour cherries, then you can also use them in this recipe. There's 6 cups of our sour cherries here, so we're going to move over and we'll make up the pie filling. It's super easy. And then I made a little bit of pie crust. They're just sitting in discs right now, so I'll actually get a pie together as well. Okay, so we have our cherries, and here's the recipe. A little pause on there if you need to. And like I said, I'll look to see if I can still get the link. It's from CanadianGardening.com. It's called Sour Cherry Pie Filling. But I don't even know if they're in business anymore. I don't know if you'll be able to still find that online. Just a few ingredients, super easy to do. First thing you need is 1 1/4 cups of granulated sugar. And then you need 4 tablespoons of cornstarch. I'm just gonna mix those together. And all that's doing is making the cornstarch so it doesn't get lumpy and clumpy in your recipe. When you mix it in with the sugar, it just helps it to be better distributed throughout the entire recipe and not get lumpy. So I'm just making sure there's no lumps in here. I think any that were just sugar, but. And then you just want to put the cherries in there and get them mixed around as well. And I dump all the juices that were in the measuring cup in. There's not a lot of juices. And then you just want to mix it and get all of that sugar and cornstarch mixed around all of the cherries until you have a real delicious looking kind of slurry wrapped around those cherries. Oh, and it smells so good. You add that sugar and all of a sudden those sour cherries just take on that dessert smell instantly. Oh, it smells so good. Okay, so now you have that, and I'm going to need some melted butter. So I'm just going to you need 2 tablespoons. So I'm just going to use my butter measurer and get 2 tablespoons cut off. Put it in a little dish and microwave it real quick. Okay, so I have my melted butter. And then I have 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. It says freshly squeezed. I always just use the bottled kind. And then you want 2 tablespoons of water. So I'm just gonna go to my tap. You're gonna add these all together. So 1, and 2. And then you want 1/4 teaspoon of almond extract. Oh. There's just something about almond extract in these berry and fruity kind of recipes that's so good. So then you're going to take that mixture and you mix your melted butter in with all of that. Mix it all up. And then you just drizzle it over top and mix it all together. And then you're basically done. So I'm just gonna make sure it's well mixed around all through everything. And then you're gonna divide this into 2 equal portions. And this was 6 cups of cherries and then some juice. I'm gonna aim for about 3 cups in each of these and then just top it up with hopefully equal amounts of juice, but I don't stress about it that much. I just go back and forth because I figure that way, as there's the most amount of juice in the bowl, I'm spreading it out between the 2 bowls with each scoop. There's just a few left in each one, so I'll just do that. So that should be about even now. Let's see how I did. Just over 2 cups. And this one's closer to 3. So let's take a few out of here. Maybe a couple scoops for a little fuller. Those look pretty good. So now, if you want to save this, freeze it, use it another time, you just take it and put it in a reusable bag, or in a Ziploc bag. I'm gonna make a label real quick. I love these labels because they don't leave a residue on my Tupperware and other containers. Sorry, I have to think what the date is today. August, I think it's the 7th today. Close enough. And then sour cherry pie filling. So yeah, these labels, they don't leave like a residue if you put them on a container or a bag or whatever, but they also stick real well even in the freezer. So I love them. And I'm just gonna use this reusable bag and I'm going to dump one of these straight in the bag. Let those delicious juices fall in there. Now, if you freeze this just in the bag like this, you're gonna wind up with an odd-shaped little clump. That's gonna be tricky when you have a pie shell all ready to go and you wanna make a pie. So if you take this, and I've never done this with these reusable bags before, so we'll see how well it conforms. But I'm trying to get away from the disposable bags and just use reusable, so gotta learn how to do it, right? So I'm just getting the air out of the bag. And then I just set it in the pie plate like that. And then it's going to freeze, when I put it in the freezer, it's gonna freeze into this pie shape. It's not gonna be perfect, but it's gonna fit in my pie crust when I pull it out. I don't have to thaw it or anything, I just take it, frozen, pop it right in my pie crust, put the second crust on, and get it baked, and it'll work really well. Otherwise, you're gonna have a big clump. You're gonna have to thaw it out or chip it apart or something to get it into your pie. And it says that even right in this recipe that I use, so I'm sure that's where I got the idea from, but that works really well. Now, I still have a bunch of pie filling and another pie plate here. So I'm gonna grab my crust. I'll show you, I'll pop up a photo of the crust recipe that I like. Super easy, I do it right in my food processor. Makes a beautiful crust. Yeah, then you can do that if you want, or just buy a store-bought pie crust. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, so grabbed my crusts out of the refrigerator. And I just have them wrapped in parchment paper in discs. I'm just gonna take it, and I have just a piece of like a silicone mat here to roll it out on. I have just a little bit of flour on there. And I'm just gonna roll out my crust. And that's a nice size. I might have rolled this a little thinner than I wanted. Sometimes I get carried away. And then you just want to kind of wiggle it till it falls down into the pie plate. I always just kind of give it a couple little divots, even though we're going to put a filling in. I'm going to just move it over this way a little bit. There. So I'm just going to leave that for a minute and I'll roll out the other one. There, that should be a good size. And what I do with it, there it is. I'm just using a little icing bag piece and I'm just going to make a few little circles because it's cherry pie, and so I like to just give it a little decoration. Now, as you can tell, I'm not being too artistic about this. I find it doesn't really matter. And then just pop out the ones that didn't pop out. Trying to work fast to keep my pie crust cold. And I'm also warming up my oven to 425 degrees. There we go. Pop that out of the way for a minute. There. I'm just going to dump my pie filling in. So if it was frozen, you would just dump it in frozen and not worry about it. You don't have to thaw it first. Take the crust, put it on top, and then how you pinch and do your crust is up to you. I'm going to go around and take some of the excess off. So I got a little big on the sides here. Some people will brush water or egg or whatever on to help them stick, but I don't really, the way I do it, I don't find it needs to be. So I just take and I actually fold the bottom crust over top the top crust and kind of give them a little pinch. This is a little thick here. And then I'll go around and just pinch it all together. And with the holes in the top, it shouldn't leak too badly in the oven. Then I just go around and just pinch it between my fingers. And that seals the crust up pretty nicely, I find. And I think it looks pretty. But everyone does their crust a little bit different. And my mom told me the crust is the signature of the pie maker, so do it how it feels right for you. There. So my oven's not quite ready, so I'm gonna pop this just into my freezer for a few minutes just to keep the bottom crust from getting soggy. And as soon as my oven is up to 425, I'll pop this in for 15 minutes. Okay, so my oven is ready. I'm gonna pop this in 425 for about 15 minutes. And then after that initial 15 minutes is done, I'll reduce the temperature of the oven to 350. I'll just leave the pie in there, won't do anything with it. And I'll restart my timer for 45 to 60 minutes. And it just is when the pie is nice and golden brown. Usually it's kind of bubbling up through those holes a little bit, but the filling is thicker, and that should be nice and cooked. The cherries should be perfectly cooked and it should be beautiful inside. So if it starts to brown a little faster on the edges during that last cooking period, you can get a bit of tin foil or something to wrap around the edges. Or if you have one of these pie edge protector things, you can just set that on top. And that'll help keep the edges from browning too fast while the rest of the pie cooks. So hopefully you enjoyed seeing me pick those cherries and saw a beautiful recipe of something delicious to make with them. And I am gonna have one pie to eat today, and I'll have pie filling to make another pie another day, really quick and easy. So while that pie is cooking during that initial 15 minutes, I'm just going to continue to pit out the rest of these cherries that I picked. And I'll just put them in a freezer bag once they're all pitted and freeze them, label them of course. And then I will have some wonderful cherries all ready to go next time I want to make something delicious like a cherry sauce or cherry cherry muffins or something. And it's just great. And I'll be going out there again and picking the rest of those cherries as more ripen up and, you know, the weather wants to cooperate, of course. So if you are interested, I'll make sure to put links to some of the products that I used today down below, just so you can check them out if you're interested in them. And I appreciate you watching my videos. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.